My. Donald Trump must be losing his ever-loving mind. I mean, well, we already know that Donald Trump is losing his mind, but let's just say that the catch-up gotta be being thrown all around that gaudy-ass, renovated, god-awful White House that he is inside of right now. Because today, baby, oh my God, the email bombshell, what we have all known deep in our hearts to be true, the fact that the grand old party needs to be changed to, right? Those that protect pedophiles, because baby, oh, we getting into some shit today. Grand old pedophiles. That is the name of the new GOP, because Lord Jesus. And for my friends that are live with me in the chat right now for the Danielle Moodie Show, if you see some breaking news, you put it in the chat, because I can't keep an eye on us and everything at the same time. But I'll tell you what I know right now. It's been a day. It has been a day. Buckle up, dear friends. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. I am so glad Damnation is here with me today, because we got some news to go through. Let's go. All right, my friends, let's go. Because if you have been off social media because you've been at your good job all day, then let me be the one to break all the news for you, because that is what the Danielle Moodie Show does. So here we start out. Jeffrey Epstein wrote Trump, quote, knew about the girls, referencing Mar-a-Lago in newly released emails. House Democrats obtained the emails from Epstein's estate as part of the committee's investigation into the late sex offenders case. So what happens when this news broke today and these emails began to trickle out, which we will unpack? Donald Trump began to lose his ever-loving fucking mind. And here's what he wrote on his broke down social media platform today. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again, because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into the trap. The Democrat costs our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting many at risk. And they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else. Any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by Democrats. Oh, is that right? Because here's the thing that Donnie clearly doesn't pay attention to, which is the fact that, one, the American people blame Republicans for the shutdown. And if we did not have a party of spineless, feckless Democrats, then we would still be pushing for the extension of the healthcare subsidies that their bill fails to include. And the fact is that now we know that Donald Trump and his cruel administration is trying to threaten states of those that decided to extend SNAP benefits to their constituents, even in the face of the government shutdown, and saying that they need to get those benefits back, right? Because that's how disgusting Republicans are. Oh, and also, the Democrats wanted them to divert the $40 billion that Donald Trump just awarded to Argentina and instead fund the extension of the tax subsidies for healthcare so that the prices don't go through the roof. And the Republicans voted against doing that. Instead of helping the American people with our own tax dollars, they have decided to give that money to Argentina. That vote happened last night. So, folks, here is where we are on this Good Wednesday. This is according to the New York Times. Trump named in emails released by Democrats and Republicans. Messages in which Jeffrey Epstein discussed Trump were among 20,000 documents posted online. Trump blamed Democrats as the White House rushed to block further revelations. Now, call me crazy, but why do we have to rush to block a hoax from coming out? Because if it's a hoax, and Mike Johnson tells us this is all much to do about nothing, then release the fucking files and let the American people decide for themselves. But based on the few emails that we're going to go through, it is very fucking clear that in my heart of hearts, I have believed that Donald Trump is a pedophile. I have believed that he is the number one person linked to Epstein, that it wasn't Andrew over there in the UK with his fucking disgusting ass that his mother was covering up for him up until her death, right? No. That it is always been Donald Trump. And because these motherfuckers are so vile, right, that they will do anything to protect him, because protecting him protects their cruelty and their connection to power. So let's go and give you some updates. House Republicans on Wednesday released 23,000 pages of documents from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein after months of delays. The move came shortly after Democrats disclosed emails from the trove suggesting Trump knew far more about Epstein's sex trafficking than he previously acknowledged. The documents were obtained by the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Representative James Comer, through a subpoena in August. They were published online about 2 hours after House Democrats released an email from Epstein in which he wrote that Trump, quote, spent hours at my house with one of Epstein's victims. Now, you just think to yourself, friends, you know that Jeffrey Epstein is a motherfucking pedophile. We saw the 50th birthday book, right, with the lewd sketches of young girls and Jeffrey Epstein, looking as a sketch and calling over little children that were sucking on lollipops to then in the next scene of that disgusting sketch, him laying down on a lounger with those same girls now in topless and in thong bottoms tending to him. Right? That was the shit inside of Jeffrey's book, along with Donald Trump and the card that sketched out a child's body, underdeveloped body, which we talked about on this very show. So let's go on, shall we? It was not immediately clear what other disclosures the larger release would include. The Times is reviewing the documents and will provide updates. But the emails between Epstein and friends and associates were laced with unflattering, at times mocking references to Trump. In 2018, for example, Epstein described Trump as, quote, borderline insane. In an email exchange with Lawrence H. Summers, the former Treasury Secretary and Harvard University president, a year later, Epstein associate dismissed Trump's financial disclosures as 100 pages of nonsense. The Times goes on. And in a January 2019 email released by Democrats, Epstein flatly asserted that, of course, Trump knew about his associations with young women, many of whom were later found by investigators to have been children. Because here's the thing, folks. I want us to be very clear about the motherfucking language that we use around this, okay? Because the fact is, when we use terms like underage and when we use things like girls, right, we push out of our minds that these were actually children, right? Because according to the laws of these United States, if you were under the age of 18, you are in fact a child. But let me go even a little bit further. If you have teen after your age, you are a fucking child. So what Donald Trump was doing, hanging out for hours at Epstein's house with a child, oh, we can only fucking imagine, because this motherfucker has been doing his best, wag the dog, to either escalate violence against the American people with these deportations, to distract people from what is actually going on inside of this White House and has been going on inside of the Department of Justice and the FBI, right? He is bombing fishermen in the Caribbean Sea as a way to what? Invoke some type of war. Because you see, if we are at war, either domestically or with a foreign country, then guess what the media's attention is focused on? So watch and see what the fuck happens tonight or tomorrow from this regime in order to change the fucking headlines. Pay attention. I'll go on. Trump urged Republicans to reject any effort to revive a discussion of his relationship with Epstein, blaming Democrats for the release of the documents in his broke down post that I just read to all of you. They go on. Still, Trump and the White House appeared to be rushing to prevent additional revelations. Top administration officials met in the White House Situation Room on Wednesday with Representatives Lauren Boebert, a Colorado Republican who is backing an effort to force a House vote on whether to demand the release of more files related to Epstein. House Republicans are walking a thin and perilous political line in the Epstein case. Oh, this thin and perilous line, which should never be crossed, which is the thing that should ultimately be bipartisan, which is that we do not celebrate, lift up, and defend people who sexually abuse, and traffic children. You see, all of the lines inside of this country have meticulously been erased over the last 10 years under Trumpism, right? What we deemed as political norms have all been disrupted. Our Constitution has been shredded. The Supreme Court has been packed with radicals. I mean, it has been a fuck show for the last 10 years. Things that should have never happened, should never be said, have now become the norm. The one thing that we should all still be able to agree on, if not science, if not facts, if not reality, should be that, oh, I don't know, sexually abusing children is wrong. And that there is no defense of that. And this is why the Republicans, this is why this entire regime has been working overtime to distract the American people for the fact that you voted in for the second time, and I say vote with air quotes, Donald Trump as your commander-in-chief, a man who told us on audio that when you are rich, when you are a star, they let you do it. You can even grab them by the pussy. That is what Donald Trump said in the bombshell that was dropped a month before the election. And that in and of itself should have been fucking disqualifying. But because of the little ways in which we value women and girls in this country, he was voted in, and a majority of those votes came from who? White women. So, folks, they called that locker room talk, right? Donald Trump said that he used to, walk in on girls at his Teen USA pageant. Oh, when you run the pageant, he said, they let you go wherever you would want. They let you just walk into the dressing room. The pageant was called Miss Teen USA. And Donald Trump was outwardly telling you that he liked to ogle fucking teenage girls. And America just giggled and laughed and isn't that funny? And the girls were just so excited to meet Donald Trump because you know what else he was doing along with his buddy Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, they're running pageants and they're running modeling agencies where you get to rope, right? Pull the rope-a-dope on these young girls, have them believe that if they just do whatever it is that you say, that they'll get to grace the pages of fashion magazines and walk runways. All of it a ruse so that they could groom and abuse. And that is what Jeffrey Epstein did for decades. And some of the most powerful men, including allegedly the current president of the United States, has been deeply involved. Let us go on. The release of the documents appears to be intended to provide Republicans with a defense. As I said, you can't defend this. They want to defend against charges that they have not released all of the government files on Epstein and his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and possibly to stave off demands, including from some House Republicans, to force a vote to release additional files. Democrats claim that the sheer volume of the release on Wednesday was intended to disorient and to distract attention from their revelations about Trump's actions during the time he and Epstein were close. Here's what else you need to know. Trump's connections. The thousands of documents include numerous references to Trump, including some in which Epstein discusses their relationship. Others are innocuous. In one exchange, Epstein is apparently pitched on a transaction related to his Boeing 727 by someone who says they previously worked for Donald Trump. And remember, what was Jeffrey Epstein's plane called? The Lolita Express. Where did Donald Trump meet Melania? On the Lolita Express. You know, we don't know about the origin story of Donald Trump and Melania. We don't know how Melania came to know Ghislaine Maxwell or how she ended up on that private jet that is known to be referred to as the Lolita Express, trafficking girls back and forth, children back and forth to be sold to rich and powerful men. And then there is this revelation, which is just utterly disgusting. A de facto advisor, a recurring presence in the messages between, with these emails, is author Michael Wolff, who acted as an advisor to Epstein. Quote, "I believe Trump offers an ideal opportunity," Wolff said. Wrote to Epstein in March 2016, according to the email, suggesting that, quote, "becoming an anti-Trump voice gives you a certain political cover, which you decidedly don't have now." Now, we all know who Michael Wolff is, right? And our friend, my lovely co-host, interviewed Michael Wolff 2 days ago. And he has made a career on his books about Donald Trump. And he has made a career and millions of dollars on his tapes that he has of Donald Trump, where he hasn't released damn near a thing. And here is what these emails show us. And what I said earlier today on the midweek Democracy-ish on Substack, which will be up shortly, is that Michael Wolff, much like Bob Woodward, are not journalists anymore. They're opportunists. They held on to information that the public needed to know. Bob Woodward held on to the fact that Donald Trump knew just how dangerous COVID was. He had him on audio. He had the transcripts, but he waited to get a New York Times bestseller out of it and to get millions of dollars worth of in advance rather than actually lay bare to the American public that this man that was currently in the White House, that shouldn't have been in the White House, was complicit in the deaths of nearly 1 million Americans. But he held on to that information for his own grifting ass benefit. So now you look at Michael Wolff, who doesn't have just 1 or 2 books on Donald Trump, but like a fucking treasure trove, who continually uses his brand to drop information and say, oh, I have thousands and thousands of hours of audio of Jeffrey Epstein. Well, then why the fuck haven't you released it all? Because I'm pretty sure that he is waiting on the opportune time just for the price to be just right in order to release that. But what these emails show is that he wasn't just acting as a journalist. He's fucking complicit, because it is clear that he was working as a strategic advisor for Jeffrey Epstein in how to use the relationship that he had and the information that Epstein had on Trump to his own benefit. Let me just remind you right now, Jeffrey Epstein was in prison 2019 when he supposedly killed himself. And I just want to remind those that are watching that it was Bill Barr, Donald Trump's attorney general, that visited Jeffrey Epstein 4 days before he supposedly committed suicide. Where the guards just left and the camera just turned off. And oh, by the way, he also was gifted a $22 million mansion, managing people's portfolios, and he's not a financial advisor. He's just a man that was running a multi-billion-dollar sex trafficking ring with children, and he had the goods on a lot of people, including Bill Barr's daddy. You connect those dots. Here's an image of some of the correspondence that Jeffrey Epstein had, including with Sultan bin Salem, Ghislaine Maxwell, Michael Wolff, Kathy Rumler. So, New York Times on one today. Read the 3 Jeffrey Epstein emails that mention Trump. Because again, there were 23,000 files that were released. House Democrats released these emails, including messages between Ghislaine Maxwell, Michael Wolff, that mention Donald Trump and the fact that Donald Trump knew about the girls. Here's one email from GMAX to JE Vacation. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim's name is redacted. Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. GMAX. I have been thinking about that. This is April 2nd, 2011. Another email, 2019. This is from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff. Victim's name, Mar-a-Lago. We can infer, but we do not know for sure, if this particular victim is Virginia Giuffre. We do not know for sure. But we do know that when Donald Trump referred to Jeffrey Epstein stealing property from him, we do know that it was Virginia Giuffre, an actual person that he was talking about in terms of stealing property from him. Redaction. Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Resign from where? Mar-a-Lago. Of course, he knew about the girls. As he asked Ghislaine to stop. Let's just be clear, because I want to infer something here. When he said, of course he knew about the girls, because he asked Ghislaine to stop, it wasn't to stop their pedophilia ring. It was to stop poaching underage girls from Mar-a-Lago that Donald Trump deemed as his property. I want to be really fucking clear about this, because I think that folks can get confused, as if to say, but you see here, because again, bobblehead Barbie up at the White House podium today was bombarded with questions about the email, so much so she ended up walking off from the press conference. But she said that, oh, these emails are much to do about nothing. And if anything, they absolve Donald Trump. So let me just put this back up again. Redacted. Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. And again, that stop was to stop poaching the underage girls, children that Donald Trump was employing at Mar-a-Lago as hosts and massage therapists. Okay? Just want to clear that up. Another email, this time from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. Subject, heads up. Importance, high. Michael Wolff in this email is speaking about Donald Trump. So let's look at the bottom to the top. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you. This is Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. Either on air or in scrum afterwards. And for folks that do not know that name, a scrum is a press scrum where the press gather, when they throw their microphones in people's faces and they ask these questions, right? That is called a scrum. Up top. If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? That was Jeffrey Epstein's response to Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff now, all the way up top. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that, when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Do you see the play that was here? And check the motherfucking date, which is December 16th, 2015. This is during the beginning of Donald Trump's campaign. Because in 11 months, he would be elected president of the United States. So when I said again that Michael Wolff, who has been masquerading as a journalist, making money off of his complicity and his being an accomplice to this sex trafficking circle, he clearly here told Jeffrey Epstein, let's think about how we use the information that Donald Trump is a fucking pedophile, has been at your house often, has been on your plane, and has been at your island. I'm going to read it again from the bottom to the top. Michael Wolff, December 15th, 2015, to Jeffrey Epstein. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. One up. Epstein's response, December 15th, 2015. If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? So what does that tell you? Also, let me take a pause. That tells you that Jeffrey Epstein was still in very close relationship with Donald Trump when he was running for president the first time around. Obviously, in the other two times he was dead. But in 2015, he was very much alive, very much in connection with Donald Trump, so much so he felt confident that he could offer up to Donald Trump, hey, I hear they're going to ask you about me in your interview. Do you want help with a pivot? This is what Jeffrey Epstein was saying when he said, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Now, the top again. Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein 11 months before the election. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Y'all, it's too good. It's too good. It's too good. It's too good. And again, this is what the Republicans know. This is what they are covering up. This is one of the biggest cover-ups in, I believe, the history of politics. This is huge because it doesn't just put Donald Trump square in the middle, literally, of Jeffrey Epstein's house and plane. It puts all these powerful, wealthy, connected men whose lives and careers would be ruined, a la the man formerly known as Prince Andrew, has been banished not only from his family, but from society, but he ain't in jail. Folks, this is, I mean, the fact that they released 23,000 files today, and there is still more to come. The fact that the White House was scrambling today to bring in Lauren Boebert and others who have said, we want this shit released. Because remember, you see, Donald Trump, he wanted to pull a bit of reverse psychology because he doesn't really think much of his followers, right? And we've known this. On the campaign trail, the first time in 2015, what did he talk about all the time? Jeffrey Epstein, right? He's the one that brought Jeffrey Epstein up because I'm certain that somebody told him, you can be linked back. So just put as, just give us seeds of truth. Jeffrey Epstein and I were good friends. He got a bad rap. Right? If there is something to these files, I'll release them. Because it's really the Democrats that are the party that is filled with pedophiles and sex offenders and blah, blah, blah. If you elect me, I'll get to the bottom of the deep state. The thing is that Donald Trump, as he is saying all of this fucking bullshit, was really thinking to himself, if I get elected, I can get rid of all of this. But you see, here's the thing on this second go round is that folks didn't realize just how entwined Donald Trump was. Folks, they had teams of people inside the DOJ and at the FBI who had Excel, Google documents to reference every single time Donald Trump was mentioned in the files. I think in their minds, they thought that it would be like a handful of times. They had a team of people because that's how many fucking times his name was coming up. And so they got to a point where Pam Bondi back in May was like, yeah, we can't release any of this shit because you are literally every fucking where. And she doesn't find that out until after she tells the MAGA influencers, come to the White House. I got the files on my desk. Remember when she said that? I got the files on my desk. She may have had the files on her desk, but she didn't read none of them. Then those idiots walk out of the White House with their big empty binders that say Epstein files on them. But then as she starts to go through, and as Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, which, by the way, has anybody seen Dan Bongino? Where the fuck is he? As they start to go through, they're like, oh, shit. We have hitched our cart to the pedophilia carriage. And now, the very thing that launched some of their careers talking about the deep state, Kash Patel back in 2023 was saying that, there's a lot going on at the FBI. And like, once we get in there, like, we're going to release these files and blah, blah, blah. Because again, they were getting high on their own supply, folks. They thought that the only motherfuckers that were up in those files were Democrats. And the whole time that Donald Trump is pulling these idiots in to his inner circle, he knows. He knows what he's done. You remember the movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer? It's like with Donald Trump, I know what you've done for the past fucking 3 decades. And here's the thing that I said today with Wajahat Ali on our midweek check-in on the Damn Digest. And this, by the way, I will put up our conversation on the Damn Digest when this show wraps. But what I said was, you see, people love power. They love access. They love money. There's a reason why the white evangelical Christians refer to Donald Trump as an imperfect tool. There's a reason why these fucking people put their prayer hands on Donald Trump. Because I've never seen more motherfucking people be convicted of pedophilia and rape than those that are inside of the white evangelical church. Namely, I believe it was, let me just go back, Google real quick. Pastor of Trump convicted of sex abuse. Robert Morris. Robert Morris was Donald Trump's spiritual advisor. Robert Morris pleaded guilty just last month. 5 felony accounts of lewd or indecent acts with what? A child. That was in October. That's Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, convicted of raping a child. That's who Donald Trump is getting spiritual advice from. And what I said in the midweek check-in with Wajahat Ali for Democracy-ish on Substack is that what runs rampant in these churches, these cults? Misogyny and abuse of women and girls. You see, all of their teachings tell them about a quote unquote natural order. Men are the heads of the household, women must submit. They love that shit. They eat it up. So it makes sense that the white evangelical church would choose a wealthy, white, powerfully connected pedophile to be their imperfect tool, to overturn marriage equality, to overturn abortion, right? To turn this into a Christian nation where women know their place, girls are groomed from birth, that the only usage that you have is to fulfill whatever needs men have for you. Anytime there are any investigations into these mega churches, what comes out is oftentimes the sexual abuse and physical abuse of girls and women. Whenever those women, some of them, come out of that church, divorce their said husbands and the pastors, they start to realize that they've been groomed since they were children, brought up in the church to respect men, to respect their elders, to do what they are told. You see, Donald Trump is not a man of God, and neither are any of those disgusting people. But he saw the benefit of being linked to white evangelical Christians. If they could give him a clean bill to the American public, then maybe he could continue to hide his connections to Epstein and to other disgusting things that I'm certain that he has been involved in and has done throughout his life. This is a man that openly said, when they're a star, they let you do it. This is a man that talked about running the Miss Teen USA pageant and finding his way into the dressing rooms of children. Oh, well, when you run the pageant, they let you go wherever you want. Ha, ha, ha. We have all, as a society, been groomed into thinking all of this is just locker room talk. That if girls are sexually abused or women are raped, it's because of what they wore, or how they acted, or where they were. That's the grooming that society has done to show how little they think about girls and women. It's why men like Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and formerly Prince Andrew are able to do whatever it is that they want, because society has told them that you are rich, you are white, you are a man, you are powerful. How dare anyone anywhere think that they could ever check you? And so the news breaks today. I'll play you some audio because I think that it's important to see what has been said.
Breaking news, CNN has learned there will be a meeting today inside the White House as aides try to manage a potential House vote on the release of the Epstein files. This comes, of course, just hours after Democrats on the Oversight Committee released emails from Jeffrey Epstein himself mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times. I want to get straight to CNN's Caitlin Polance. Caitlin, what are you learning?
Well, the House is releasing these files, but it's not everything that the federal government has. Dana, there's additional files still held by the Justice Department that some Republicans on Capitol Hill are in support of releasing. And so that is causing a political response inside the White House right now, where there is a meeting planned, or was a meeting planned today, about the House effort to try and force a vote to get the Justice Department, the Trump administration, to release the rest of the FBI files, the Justice Department files, everything from years of the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and others, things that have not seen the light of day yet. What one source tells me, we have multiple sources confirming that this meeting is happening, but what one source tells me is that this meeting was planning to include some key figures from the Justice Department: the FBI Director Kash Patel, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and then one of those Republicans in support of transparency, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado. So what might happen at this meeting if Boebert could be swayed in a different direction on wanting transparency here? That is all something that is going to be at issue and that the White House is clearly concerned about, having discussions about it. On top of that, Dana, another thing to remember here is that the Justice Department has tried many different ways to distract from releasing the full Justice Department files. They tried to get grand jury records out there. Blanche talked to Ghislaine Maxwell, a co-conspirator in Florida. When Ghislaine spoke to Todd Blanche, she told him that Trump himself never acted inappropriately, and she never saw anything untoward in any way toward underage girls. Dana?
Yeah. But she also said he was never at the house. And in the email, Epstein said he was at the house. So this is going to be a very interesting meeting. The fact that Lauren Boebert is going to be there is especially fascinating. Thank you.
So what else happened today? Well, one of the most important things, the swearing in of Adelita Grijalva, the 218th vote necessary for the discharge petition to release all of the files. You know, who Mike Johnson denied her rightful place for 50 days after she won her election. And in her speech, Representative Grijalva said that the majority of this body has failed to hold the Trump administration accountable. She took a swipe at Speaker Johnson without naming him, as she criticized the 50 days it took for her to go from winning her election to being sworn in. This is an abuse of power, she said. One individual should not be able to unilaterally obstruct the swearing in of a duly elected member of Congress. And so, let's take a listen to what she said on the House floor, finally.
Epstein's abuse. They are here in the gallery with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. We need to fight for our immigrant communities and veterans. We need to stand up for our public schools, children, and educators. We need to respect tribal sovereignty in our environment. We need to stand up for LGBTQ+ rights, because that's what the American people expect us to do. Fight for them. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files. Justice cannot wait another day. Adelante, mi gente. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I yield back.
And so she did just that. Representative Adelita Grijalva, Democrat of Arizona, after finishing her speech, she immediately signed the petition. So the question is whether or not there was enough time for Donald Trump to persuade Lauren Boebert and others to remove their names from the petition. But because I've been here with all of you, I have no idea if that has happened. But here is what else was happening today. When asked on Katie Tur's show, Don Bacon, a Republican, said this with regard to a potential vote on the Epstein files.
Again, thank you so much. And just to be clear, I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You will be voting yes on releasing the Epstein files if it makes it to the floor, and you believe it will.
If it goes on the floor, I get a lot of pushback. Why don't you put your name on the discharge petition? And I'm just going to be subtle in my response. Just look at all the few Republicans that are on it and who they are. It's going to come on the floor. I will vote yes.
Got it. All right, Congress.
So basically, he was too chicken shit to put his name on the discharge petition. And he's just like, I let the more famous Republicans get that done. Here's another GOP representative, Warren Davidson, and what he said. Again, if in fact, and again, he did not sign the discharge petition, but this is what he said to CNN if it makes it to the floor.
Look, I think the oversight committee, I'm going to vote for it if it comes up because
you'll vote for the bill.
Yeah, because look, I think the oversight committee has pushed out a lot of disclosures. The administration's done a lot. If you look in the UK, they've tried to do something towards Prince Andrew. But one of the things that went away during the shutdown is Pam Bondi was supposed to come to the House and answer these questions. And look, I'm not on the Judiciary Committee, but I did want Pam Bondi to come and do some explaining.
And so if Donald Trump actually wanted to exonerate himself, he should release all the Epstein files today. And that's what we're asking the White House today. And remember, we're getting our documents from the Epstein estate. The Department of Justice has an enormous amount of documents, photos, maybe videos, materials that the American public deserve to see.
But even if it does pass the House, this bill faces a very uncertain prospect, very dubious prospects. In fact, the Senate Republican leaders have shown no interest in taking this bill up. It's unlikely to get 60 votes there. And of course, Donald Trump would have to sign it into law, which he has made very clear how opposed he is to this bill. So it becoming law seems very, very unlikely at this point, Boris.
But the fact is, as was said, what is coming out from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And why is that? Well, because Jeffrey Epstein's brother doesn't believe he committed suicide. And he would like Congress to get to the bottom of that. Who was behind his brother's death? Because he does not believe that he committed suicide. And so what else was interesting to me about Representative Davidson's response is that he seemed to be blaming Pam Bondi, which if you pay attention to how, let's say, another blonde bobblehead, Megyn Kelly, speaks about the Epstein files, which she was in deep conversation at TPUSA or with Charlie Kirk before he was killed, in saying that the people deserve to know what is in the Epstein files. And who was she blaming? Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi royally screwed this up. Pam Bondi's got some explaining to do. Pam Bondi works for Donald Trump. I mean, she's certainly not America's Attorney General. She works for Donald Trump. And so, do we really believe that Pam Bondi is pulling the strings here? Or do we believe that she's doing what she's told? And, you know, another person. And I'm telling you, when this comes out, folks, when all the names eventually are dripped out, there'll be some figures who you know. Larry Summers, for one. You know Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary under Obama. A series of exchanges between Jeffrey Epstein and Lawrence Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, suggest a far cozier and intimate relationship than was previously known. Emails between the two were released Wednesday by the House Republicans, along with more than 20,000 pages of documents. They show the two men bantering, sometimes multiple times a day. The discussions, which took place in 2017, 2018, and 2019, largely focused on Trump, who Mr. Epstein in 2018 described as borderline insane. Goes on to say this, but many of the emails focus on Summers' conversations with a woman and is concerned about how to handle relations with her. Over several exchanges, Epstein offered advice because, he doesn't know women, he knows children well, but, whatever. Offered advice, sometimes referring to Summers' connections as though it were a sport. In a March 16, 2019 email, Summers appeared concerned about the woman's involvement with another person. Here's the email. Well, one of them. From Jeffrey Epstein, date March 16th, 2019, 3:19 p.m. to Larry Summers. She's smart, making you pay for past errors. Ignore the daddy. I'm going to go out with the motorcycle guy. You reacted well. Annoyed shows caring. No whining showed strength. This is what Epstein wrote. Summers wrote, we talked on the phone. I'm sorry, I read that in the wrong order. Let me do it from the bottom to the top. I forget how email works. So Summers wrote first, March 16th, 2019, 3:08 p.m. We talked on phone. Then I can't talk, call later. Didn't think I can talk tomorrow. I said, what are you up to? She said, I'm busy. I said, awfully coy, you are. And then I said, did you really rearrange the weekend we were going to be together because guy number 3 was coming? She said, no, his schedule changed after we changed our plans. I said, okay, I gotta go. Call me when you feel like it. Tone was not of good feeling. Didn't want to be in a gift-giving competition while being the friend without benefits. Epstein writes in response, she's smart, making you pay for past errors. Ignore the daddy. I'm going to go out with the motorcycle guy. You reacted well. Annoyed shows care. No whining showed strength. If you are emailing Epstein for advice on girls or women, you're disgusting. Birds of a feather. If I'm Summers today, I'm really nervous. If I'm Harvard today, I don't feel good. So we close out with this, and I know that I have run well over time, but we close out with this, which is the fact that Donald Trump is not doing well. He sucks at his job as president, and he also sucks at everything else. He is under fucking water. So like I said at the top of the show, pay attention to what this regime does tonight or tomorrow or before the end of the week to try and change the headlines, to try and change the story. Because when you look at where Donald Trump is now in terms of the polls, I'll leave it to our friend over at CNN, Harry Enton, to give us some insight.
No, not at all. And if I had one piece of advice to my fellow fast food lover, it would be, in the words of Michael Jordan, stop it. Stop going after the polls. You have a real problem. Because take a look here. Americans on inflation, you go back to October of 2024. Who did Americans trust more in inflation, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? They trusted Donald Trump by 9 points on average. You jump over to this side of the screen, those same exact polls have him way, way, way underwater, 26 points underwater on his net approval on inflation. So it's not that the polls are fake. It's that the American people have turned against you, Mr. President. You've gone from leading by 9 points on inflation to being 26 points underwater. You're doing something very wrong in the minds of the American public.
I mean, negative 26, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
Let's go down this path of hypotheticals, right? Yeah. If the polling is off a la 2024, what would that mean for the president?
Yeah, okay.
And inflation.
Exactly. So you see this switcheroo, right, going from +9 to -26. That's a move of over 30 points in the wrong direction. But let's say the polls are off. Let's take up Donald Trump on his hypothetical, right? Oh, the polls always underestimate me. Well, here's Trump's net approval rating on inflation. Currently, he's 26 points below water. If the polls are off like they were in 2024, he's still got a Titanic-sized problem. He's then 24 points underwater on inflation. So, yes, the polls underestimated him, but just by about 1.5 points in 2024, he would still have a massive, massive, massive problem on inflation, even if the polls were off like they were a year ago.
Okay, just go down the underestimating route when it comes to what if they're underestimated? What if Donald Trump himself is underestimated? What if the Republicans are underestimated?
Yeah, okay, so you see this right here, right? You see if Donald Trump is underestimated the same way that he was in 2024, he'd still be way below water. But there is no guarantee that the polls are underestimating Donald Trump. They may, in fact, be overestimating Republicans.
I meant overestimating.
It's all good, Kate Baldwin. It's all good. I got you right here.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So, you see this right here. If they were underestimating the Republicans, but the truth is they could be overestimating the Republicans. We just saw this a week ago in both Virginia and New Jersey. Who the polls underestimated in 2025? They underestimated the Democrat Mikey Sherrill by 8 points in New Jersey. They underestimated Abigail Spanberger's margin by 5 points in Virginia. The bottom line is this. The polls on inflation are absolutely awful for Donald Trump. Even if they were slightly better, he'd still be way, way below water. But the problem, Kate Baldwin, might be even worse than the polls suggest. The bottom line is this. Donald Trump has a massive issue on his hand, and no wishing will make it go away because people feel it in their pocketbooks every day, and they see it as the prices climb ever higher when they try and purchase their groceries.
There you have it. Not only does he have an Epstein problem, he has an American problem, which is that you can only bullshit people so far when it starts to show up on their receipts. Donald Trump is telling them everything is great. I've solved wars. I should get a Nobel Peace Prize. I've done this. I've done that. And motherfuckers are looking at their checkout bill and they're like, why is it much higher now than it was the other goddamn day? Right? Like, folks, the lies, everything is coming home to roost. And my fear is that what Wajahat said earlier today on Democracy-ish, what happens when rats are cornered? They'll chew through anything in order to save themselves. Walls, wires, people. Donald Trump is a cornered motherfucking rat right now. And Lord only knows, with his fat fingers on the nuclear button, with him dropping bombs on fishermen in the Caribbean Sea, with him deporting people to Uganda, with him sending billions of dollars to Argentina, with him rolling out ICE into all major cities. Lord only knows what he's going to do next. But anything that he does is going to be about saving his own fucking neck and doing what he does best, which is trying to change the conversation in the media. Don't get distracted. Pay attention. Folks, I went super over today, but before I head out of here, and we will have to do Town Hall Tuesday another day, even though I know that it's Wednesday and I said that we would do it, but the news was just too fucking big today to stop. But I want to thank our super stickers and our super thanks. This is independent media, folks. I am people powered only. And so I'm able to do this job for you because of you. So thanks to Ernst, as always, for your $5, Barb for $4.99, Junior for $5, Chiara for $5, Susan, our fantastic moderator, as always, thank you so much for $10, Tarabeth for 10, Focus Lady for $19.99, appreciate you, Ernst again, so generous, appreciate you, Andreas $5, thank you so much, Barb $10, appreciate you, Loki for coming a member. Folks, memberships are now open. There are 2 tiers, and if you want to be able to support my work on a monthly basis, then that is the way to do it. So do check out the memberships and see if you would like to become a member. But know that I will never put any of my content behind a paywall. Members are just for people who have the money, have the ability, but you will not miss anything. Just know that. Gordian, thank you so much for $5. Chiara again for 10. E. Schwartz, as always, for 3. Joe, thank you so much for 10. And Julie coming in big and generous. Thank you for my birthday, $50. Appreciate each and every single one of you. Dear friends, I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you tomorrow. Be well.